Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage.
Burnout doesn't usually hit all at once, it builds quietly.
Longer days, constant interruptions, and the feeling that everything still depends on you, no matter how hard you work.
And most of the time, burnout isn't caused by being too busy.
It's caused by unclear boundaries, weak systems, and too much responsibility staying with you, the owner.
So, in this episode, we're breaking down how to burnout proof your firm by fixing the structure and not pushing yourself harder.
Welcome to Lawyer Boss Life, the podcast where law firm owners learn to build profitable businesses and lead lives they love. I'm Alay, founder of Law Firm Success Group. I've helped hundreds of attorneys scale their firms, gain freedom, and take back their time.
And I'm Chelsea Pagan, law firm owner, entrepreneur, and toddler mom. I know it's possible to have an excellent income, work 40 hours a week or less, and still take time off because that's what I do. And that's exactly how I prevent my burnout, right? Is talking about all
Taking
the
time off.
taking time off, not overworking on a daily basis, not overworking on a weekly basis. All of these things have to be a part of your business discussions, not just, the fantasy conversation or pillow talk with your partner about, God, I want to work less or I want to take more time off. These need to be planned conversations. You and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah, and I know it's so hard for a lot of law firm owners to actually deliberately plan the time because, client demands being what they are, things go sideways at times. And before you know it, you're just, buried with work, work, work. But it really is important to set up some firm boundaries in your firm to protect you and your mental health. Um, and I see this happening a lot in litigation, especially litigation types of firms like family law. And Chelsea, you probably know family law attorneys that are just stressed out, burned out, and don't take enough time to be healthy mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's things that as law firm owners, I think often go overlooked as to these early signs of burnout, especially in family law or litigation based firms, that I think most people think are just, oh, this is just because of this trial, or I feel this way just because I had a lot of court this week. But that in and of itself is information that can lead to that consistent burnout. So I can share a little bit about some of the signs that I noticed when I hit not burnout, because I really do actively take steps to prevent that. But I hit those signs where, it's time for a tweak. It's either time to hire somebody or plan an impromptu day off, something like that. For me, number one kind of early sign I start to see is that slowly I leave 15 minutes later from work, maybe 20 minutes later for work, slowly start getting behind on a daily basis. Or I come to Friday when I usually do a lot of admin and catch up, and it's 4 p.m. and I'm still working on a Friday. And that's late for me. Alay knows 4 p.m. on a Friday. I don't really touch my emails past 1. So that's for me, one of the early signs that I start to see I'm going to get exhausted. I'm going to get tired. Alay, when you talk to some of your clients, I mean, that's just one little thing I start to notice. Is that something that they even bring up to you as something that they think is leading to their burnout? Because I think 15-minute increments on a daily basis can really pile up.
Yeah, it can. And normally, some of the signs that I see, um, first of all, no one is immune to burnout. I mean, I've been there too, and it's something I think about a lot and try and deal with too. But some of the signs I see are, you mentioned it, Chelsea, with a 15-minute thing. When you get to a certain point, normally you would just continue working, but you just don't have it. You know,
Mhm.
it's just not there, and so you stop. Um, so from a work perspective, I will see that when I'm talking to clients about how many hours they spent, billing and business development and law firm admin, and they're coming back and saying, "Look, I just didn't work that hard because I'm just too damn tired."
Yeah.
So that's one thing I see. The other thing I see, which is maybe a bit more subtle, is because you're burned out. And by burned out, I'm going to kind of define it as kind of being so tired, you're just sick of the whole thing. It can impact how you view prospective clients as well as existing clients. I've had attorneys want to rage fire their clients. because they feel like their clients are being really unreasonable, and it's the clients are unreasonable, but normally they would be able to deal with it. But because they just don't have that level of patience, they're just fried super crispy. Um, their tolerance isn't there, their patience isn't there, and so they just say, "Enough, I'm done." Like,
Mhm.
"You're out of here." Or when they're talking to a potential client, they'll say, "Oh, I didn't sign that client because it would just be a hot mess, and A, B, C, D reasons why." Because they didn't want to put up with it. They were too tired to deal with it. And that can really show up in your business financials too when that happens.
Yeah, I would agree. That was gonna be in my mind kind of that second little kind of early sign for me when I'm approaching I need a day off or I need a reset is I start losing a little bit of my patience with some of my clients who, aren't being unreasonable, but are just pushing a little bit more to try to explore. And when I start losing my patience, or maybe am just being a little short with clients or expecting them to kind of follow my lead without further explanation, I know it's time to reset, right? Because they pay you for a service, they pay you for sound advice, right? But they control ultimately some of the decision making in this process. And I can usually tell right away when a client kind of pushes back. She's like, I feel like you're being short with me. And I'm like, huh, if you're feeling it, it's probably because it's there, right? And it's time for a reset. And so some of the things when I start noticing these early signs, I check the boundaries that I've set for myself. And some of my boundaries with clients to make sure I'm maintaining my schedule is one, I never set calls after 5 p.m. I don't take calls on the weekends. I don't check emails on the weekends. If it's an emergency, I tell my clients a real emergency is calling the police in my business anyway, right? Like, if it's a
Yeah,
real
that's right.
emergency,
Yeah.
you call the police. Otherwise, we'll get to it on Monday. So, do you go through exercises a lot, or do you have some exercises and tools for how law firm owners can assess what boundaries are right for them?
Yeah, and for us, it's going to be a conversation. So, we talked about how it shows up in how you deal with new clients, how it shows up in how you deal with existing clients, how it shows up in your productive hours. The other area where when we're talking about this, it comes up, and this is probably the biggest one, the most damaging for your firm is how it shows up in how you interact with your employees. So for those of you who have employees, I mean, they are gold in your firm. Your firm will only go as far as your team will take you. And if you are burned out and you're taking it out on your employees, um, they're not going to put up with it. And their performance will suffer. Ultimately, they will leave. And that will be really, really damaging potentially for your firm. So, we talk through these kinds of things, and I don't have to do a lot of talking because usually they're going to bring it up because they're really, upset about not just one employee, but several. And this is we'll talk about it. It'll be a relatively new thing that's happening, or it's a ongoing behavior, but now it just bothers them a lot. And that could be a sign that, look, if it's getting under your skin, um, your team is getting under your skin, but traditionally you've been okay with them and their performance hasn't changed that much. It's just like you're kind of finally sick of this nonsense. That could be a sign that it's just time for you to take a little bit of a break sometimes. So that's how we do it, Chelsea. We have it in conversations. There are lots of assessments and tools out there to assess burnout, but a lot of this really has to do with some introspection. Um, the other caveat I'll add to that too is we're not talking about the burnout where you just want to quit the practice of law. That's a
Mhm.
very different kind of a burnout. We're talking about things that can be fixed or addressed by taking some time for yourself and taking some time off and respecting your work hours a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is I think people maybe I guess it just depends on your personality, but maybe some law firm owners think that you can just consistently prevent burnout doing all of these things and you're never going to get it. And I feel like that's setting yourself up for disappointment. While I feel like I've done a lot to create a law firm where I'm allowed to take time off, my team's allowed to take time off. Generally speaking, I can control on a weekly, daily basis how much the time I'm taking off. But there are always going to be things that come up that make me feel like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to do it this week. And that's okay. That's going to happen from time to time. I think that happens in every job, no matter how much you enjoy what you do. And so usually what I get out of these moments is just what you kind of said. It is just really time for me, to take a step back. It doesn't mean that I need to do a whole reset of everything going on in my firm. Just kind of check in with me, check in with my family, check in with my team, and figure out how we can step back. And sometimes it leads to tweaking a couple of your internal systems or the way that you communicate with clients. Um, for example, early on, we realized that we were constantly having clients kind of ask, like, when can I get a hold of you after hours? I need to schedule after hours, all of these different questions. And so we created this big welcome packet that I can tell you, I don't think most people that hire us ever read this thing in full, but we encourage it. It's there. It's a resource. We want to make sure that we've shown them that we attempted to do this. And then, of course, we remind them, but it says our hours. It says we do not work on the weekends, absent an agreement between you and the attorney, or, something that has to be done. We don't give out our personal cell phone numbers. That gets asked for all the time. All of these kind of general policies about communication are in this welcome packet. That kind of came about in one of these episodes Emily and I had where we were drained, having to repeat ourselves. So it was something we added, but it wasn't a whole overhaul. It was just taking all the things we believed and putting them in writing. And so some of these systems can help reduce the need to repeat yourself and put it out there. That doesn't mean you're not going to have to, remind your clients, hey, if you check the welcome packet, as a reminder, I don't give out my personal cell phone. So sometimes it's okay to hit that point to really allow you to do exactly kind of what you said, which is just kind of reflect on your needs and what's going on in your life, right?
Yeah, and I love what you're doing there, Chelsea, with the way that you have kind of established the expectations for communication with the clients. And so, looking at other attorneys, if you're an attorney listening to this or watching this, and you're feeling like, you know, I am so sick and tired of clients contacting me after hours and, demanding all sorts of things from me that I really don't want to give. It could be a sign that, whether you're burned out or not, it could be a sign that you need to change how you're interacting with your clients, because clients are trained. They're trained by you. So if you're not
Yeah.
happy about how your clients are behaving or how your employees are behaving too, think about how you're training them and what expectation you're setting for them. And if you think to yourself, well, I have to do it this way, I would really challenge you on that, because you 9 times out of 10, you don't have to do it that way. It may
Mhm.
seem crazy to you, but Chelsea has shown that you can be a successful family law attorney, not give out your cell phone, and not take client calls over the weekends. Like, you can do this, but you have to train your clients that way. Um, and I do want to make an important distinction here of procrastination versus burnout, because
Mhm.
they can seem similar in some ways. And it's funny because although they seem similar, the solutions are completely different.
Mhm.
So if you're procrastinating, you may not be working a lot of hours. You may not be doing the things that you need to get done because you don't feel like it. And you think to yourself, oh, I'm tired, and then you might really think to yourself and be honest with yourself and go, okay, I know I'm not that tired. I just really don't want to do it right now. I'd rather be doing something else.
Mhm.
That's procrastination. Burnout is, I'm just sick of this. I get triggered when I walk into my law firm knowing all the work that I have to do. I completely shut down. It's almost like a low grade depression for your work life. That's burnout. And the solutions are very different. So for procrastination, um, what you want to do with that is pick something important, whatever it happens to be. Don't worry about time, just lean into it and just get going, because as you start to work, the procrastination will fade, that feeling will go away, and you will find yourself being really productive. So it's a little bit of a force, but you have to force yourself to do work. And as soon as you start working, that procrastination feeling will be gone. With burnout, it's the exact opposite. You need to step away. You need to recharge your batteries. And and that can be oftentimes something that my clients get confused about is, am I procrastinating or am I burned out? And so we go through that exercise. And 9 times out of 10, what they're actually having is procrastination. But sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been both in both of those
Yeah,
situations
yeah, me too.
from time to time. It just depends on the week. But I love what you said about, you know, attorneys kind of creating those expectations from clients. And one of the ways in which, attorneys, I think, can encourage those after hours, those weekend communications is if they're working after hours and catching up on emails and sending emails after hours or sending emails on the weekend. And I don't, this isn't some, new strategy. It's pretty available, but I don't, sometimes I do work at night because I want to catch up. Sometimes I do work a little bit on the weekend just because I feel like it. But I always schedule my emails to send Monday morning once our office is open. So I'm getting the work done. I'm still doing the job to get myself ahead, but I'm not encouraging that kind of weekend communication. I'm showing the client I communicate during hours. So it's a really underused tool on top of a way message for setting boundaries of when you're in the office, out of the office for more extended period of time. Those are my two non-negotiables in how I plan communication. So I just wanted to share it because only use those liberally in the beginning, and now I use them all the time, and it really helps our clients know. And
It
on top
really
of that,
does. And
oh, go ahead.
well, you hit the nail on the head with this because so oftentimes attorneys actually think the other way around. They think, oh my gosh, if I'm sending an email at like 10 at night or 2 in the morning, it looks like I'm super dedicated to my client. My client's going to love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I get emails from opposing counsel all the time at random hours.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, clients,
Mhm.
whether they love it or not, you're training them that it's okay to communicate with you in those hours. And so that becomes the new expectation. So now if you're not responding to emails at 10 at night, guess what? Your client's not going to be happy with you. So that's where that delayed send is really cool, and where the out of office is nice because now the client knows, right? They get a status reply. They're not sitting there waiting for you to respond. They know what's going on with you and they know what to expect. And so, Chelsea, I think what you've done a great job of in your firm with Emily is you set your client expectations very well and you train your clients appropriately. So you're able to deliver a very high level of service that gets the job done for them, makes them feel that you're responsive, yet gives you the space to really, enjoy life and to be at your best for your clients and for your family.
Yeah, and to be honest, you have to set that example for your employees. And they are not in the same situation as you, right? They don't have the same they didn't sign up to take the risk of building this firm or do they didn't sign up for that. They're employees, they have a job to do. But if you're constantly doing this, then they think that's the expectation they have to do better, make more money, be successful, is they have to respond after hours. They have to be available on the weekends or while they're on vacation. And that's the last thing us as business owners for our law firm we want to do.
It's so different than it was when, I'm not going to date it, but like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, where it was all about, working crazy hours and being super dedicated. And if you were working late at night, it was like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
That's all changed.
Mhm.
And we don't want our employees to be doing that anymore. We certainly don't want to be doing it anymore. Um, and you've done a good job of showing how to do that in your firm, Chelsea.
Often, so my office in our actual physical office, my office is in the back. So when I leave, I've got to walk through and out the front door. And so often if I've stayed, even 5-10 minutes late and I come up there and one of my associates or another employee is still there, I go, "What are you doing here? Go home," right? Don't stay too late. Reiterating that for your team that there's so much more. You can do a good job between the hours of 9 to 5. Yes, sometimes there's going to be a little bit more here and there, but overall, you can make it happen if you set the right boundaries. So if you need help setting boundaries and creating systems that protect your time and well being, you can book a strategy call on our website, lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. If this episode sparked new ideas, please like, subscribe, and share it with a lawyer who might need it. We love hearing how you're building your lawyer boss life.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.